The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
I'm CJ.
And it's a Monday.
Is it really?
Here in the Riv.
Well, let me tell you something. I got to bring this up right away. I got two things to bring up right away. Number one, on Friday's show, we spoke about the mills and the use of them as a museum for, you know, the remembrance of the slavery of Fall River. And I had made the comment that a gentleman in the city, Alden, had made a commentary about he wants it for higher educational facilities and the like. And I believe I may have said that he was looking at making them art museums. That was a mistake. Alden never said that he wanted them art museums. He wants to make them schools. He wants to make them places of higher education. And he sent several emails back and forth. And he says, you're going to lose the beauty. And I commented on that in the Weekend Flush, and I suggest that you go out and read the Weekend Flush. But again, I don't like to misquote people. There was no ill will or ill intent meant by it, but people have these grandiose ideas for these buildings, and all we keep seeing the city do is make them into some type of rate housing, whether it's market rate or low income, because we all know that equates to low income housing in the long run. So we always do our proper due diligence, and when we make a mistake, we take our spankings for it. So,
Well,
and
okay.
whether you think it's a spanking or not, it's irrelevant. I don't like putting words in people's mouths.
Well, you know, that's fine. Everybody has their opinion. The fact is that the mills can't be used as schools because today the criteria to build schools is extremely stringent. They need specific amounts of space, specific amounts of dedicated space for different things. It would probably cost more to comply with the new, but the fact is the mills with the oil soaked floors, I wouldn't want to put children, you know,
I
tons
think
of
he was
children
talking
in
more along the
mills.
lines of colleges and higher ed
Well, even
universities.
colleges, they still have to deal with a building that's
Right.
high. But I've got to just say one thing before, you know, because I'm tired, you know, I always speak about the myths that politicians create. The myth and the illusions of things are getting better all the time and we're working hard. You know, and the mills in Fall River is something that's always used upon. They talk about how great it was in the golden age of the textile industry, and how Fall River was we had a lot of people, but they were, as I said, chained to the machines. This is a direct quote. I'm reading from a book called Labor's Untold Story. On October 18th, 1883, yes, I said 1883, Thomas O'Donnell, a mule spinner in Fall River, testified before the Senate Committee on Capital Relations. Quote, I have a brother who has 4 children besides his wife and himself, and he earns $1.50 a day. He works in the ironworks at Fall River. He only works about 9 months of 12. There is generally 3 months of stoppage, and his wife and his family have to be supported for the year on the wages of the 9 months at $1.50 a day. It does not stand to reason that those children and he himself have natural food and can be naturally dressed. His children are often sick, and he has no money to call the doctors. O'Donnell was asked how he supported his own family of 4 on $133 a year, which is, by the way, $2.56 a week. I got a couple dollars worth of coal last winter and the wood I picked up myself. I goes around with a shovel and picks up clams and wood, unquote. He said, how many people not in Fall River live that way? He said, 1,000 live on 150 or less a year. The answer was they live on less. So if you think it was great because we had a lot of people and we had a lot of people working, it wasn't. Corporate greed existed in the 1800s. That was the beginning of it, the Industrial Revolution, and now we've gotten it to an art form. So I just had to say that about Fall River and its mills, because they are edifices and monuments to everything that's wrong with the society in this nation.
Well, I agree, and you know, it's just scary. But let's move on to the second item of the day. We have a local politician who, even internationally, can't stay off the camera or the tube. So now we have the two-tube.
The two on the tube.
Yep. That's RTP. These pictures were taken by some of our viewers and posted all over Facebook of the mayor being on Radio Television Portugal in the Azores. And, you know, it's interesting because the mayor, his chief of staff, and his campaign manager, Jen Andrade, have pictures all over Facebook of the mayor being out there. So my next big questions are, who paid for it? Is it costing the city a dime? It can't come out of his campaign funds. And what was the purpose of this trip? He has pictures of the chief of security with the Azorian president. You know, he has pictures of him and Chris Parreño and Jen Andrade, you know, all over the place. So what was the purpose of this trip? And don't say that this is an economic development trip, okay? Because I'm not going to buy that. We had that story touted to us once before where we're looking for qualified teachers and it cost the city thousands of dollars. So what was the purpose of going there for what appears to be maybe 4 days after serving 4 months in office?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he's looking at the color of the bags in the Azores, if they have trash pickup. I don't know, but it seems that we have a myriad of problems here in the city. Now DCM is without with no direction. We have some issues pending that we have to resolve that are very, very important to the city and to the citizens and the taxpayers of Fall River. The city is in a state of disarray. We need to deal with this stuff, but he's following a good lead. Our state delegation goes to Portugal, I think, 2 or 3 times a year, maybe more. They figured out a way to get to Portugal. They spend almost as much time in Portugal as they spend in the chambers up on Beacon Hill. But, this is politics at its best. You go over there, take a bunch of selfies, because this is today's society. Today, the selfie has become the politician's way of saying, look, I'm doing something. And what you are doing is taking a picture of yourself. That's all you're really doing. Let's see some legislation. Let's see you working for the people. Let's see you trying to hold the tax rates down for the people of Fall River, a city that, again, was in the news. What was that article or that someone wrote about Fall River, CJ? You notice how I segued right into that?
Yes, I know. I loved it. I wish I had printed it out too, because I guess it was a commentary from a Fall River resident that appeared in Boston, and he spoke about how this is what we should use for marketing of Fall River. And basically it was like a campaign speech. A heroin addict on every corner. The odds of being raped of 1 in 100 people, and this is what Fall River is when its own residents are doing this. And I think one of the things that really speaks volumes here is the fact that we're being listed as the 5th or 6th worst community.
Which I object to.
Yeah, which you've objected to. But, this is how we're being perceived, not only by our own, but by the state and the nation. And when you have stories coming out about people who have OD'd in the neighborhood, and they've called for assistance to help these people that are on the street, and they've OD'd, and they leave. The people who OD'd, they took the guy who was unconscious or whatever, threw him in the back of a car, and they drove off stoned out of their mind. And EMS replied, the police department responded, and the fire department responded. 9 people responded to this over the weekend. And then they went wasting time looking for these people who were addicted to heroin and who overdosed. Guess what? They didn't want to be saved. That would have been the message I took. And the person who called said, I tried to reach out and get some help for these people, said, I will never do it again. This is what I've been talking about. This is what I've been telling the community. If they want help, they can get it. They just need to ask. They're not asking. And don't give me the excuse that they're not asking because they don't understand. They understood enough to put the needle in their arm.
Well, you know, again, we have these myths that are being created, and you know, it's not something new. You know, we've quoted one of our sources, Mr. Goebbels, who was the propaganda minister during World War II, when he said that, you know, if you tell a big enough lie often enough, people will begin to believe it. And this is what's happened in the city of Fall River. You know, we continue to see our politicians with these spinning their web of myths, saying that we're marketing the city and this is the new plan and we're going to have a waterfront and people are going to flock to the city of Fall River and this is the plan and we're going to have slogans and pictures and we're going to do everything. And well, you know, we have to realize that our own community, the people who have lived in Fall River for a long time, like you and I, have seen the deterioration of this city. We've seen it in other places, Detroit, Flint. We've seen this. We see the flight of the working class out of the city. We see the influx of welfare into the city. We see the economy destroyed. We have the highest unemployment rate. We have almost 25% of the city living below the poverty level. We have the lowest household income in the state. And our politicians continue to try to tell us that they're marketing the city, and they've got all these Pollyannish fixes, all these ridiculous, and we are in ludicrous speed going to ridiculousness, because they continue to tell you this while, what do? They continue to raise taxes, raise fees, give their friends jobs, and do absolutely nothing to change the complexion of this city. This city has changed. Years ago, it wasn't the richest city in the Commonwealth, but people had jobs, people worked, people went to stores, we had restaurants, and today we have the lowest amount of stores of a city of our size and businesses in the Commonwealth. Why? Because nobody has any money. And we continue to push market rate housing, and when you continue to push these myths that we're going to fix things with slogans and pictures, and we're going to outdraw places like Newport, Rhode Island, and Cape Cod, and bring a whole bunch of tourists down to places, Fall River, that's a city that we're in the top 50 for crime rate. So I don't know about you, CJ, but I think that we can't blame the people. We've had 3 mayors in the last 3.5 years. Looks like we may have 4 very shortly at the next election. We've changed some councilors, but we've got to keep doing it. The people, I think, are doing what they have to do. They're paying attention. They're beginning to get angry, as we told them to do. They're beginning to follow the money. And we just can't have this. We've got to have people that are dedicated to turning this city around, and it's got to be done brick by brick, and it's got to be done not with fancy slogans. It's got to be done with some fundamental changes in the way we do business. That's to bring things in like containerized shipping, not tourism. We've had opportunities, and we don't do it. And what does our mayor do? After 4 months of utter chaos, because that's what this city's been since he's been in, utter chaos. You know, dismantling departments, you know, hiring people that aren't qualified. 4 months of utter chaos, and he goes on a vacation, and they may call it a business trip, and they may say he's going to build bridges with the Azores, and he can meet with anybody he wants, but it's another political trip.
Yeah, and you know, it's getting sad because we have, as you said, a state delegation going over there regularly, not attending to the business at hand, which is what's going on in your district, what's going on in your city. And it makes for poor government. It really does. And then you have reporters claiming that well, Fall River can be the new fishing capital. Okay, for mythical bass fish, which grow to huge size. And,
Yeah.
and then, of course, you have the most recent article by Pravda. You know, would you believe Fall River is the new hub for underwater technology? These people do. I mean, and you looked at some of the pictures of these things, and this came from the Innovation Center, or whatever they call that place now, up on where the old Kerr Mill was. And this, and funny that this business was there, then they moved down to Commonwealth Landing, and they jumped ship on Commonwealth Landing and went somewhere else. So, you know, we have to look at this. And, you know, do I think that Fall River can be a hub for, you know, innovation, for a new way of doing business, for some new industries? Potentially, yes. But again, at what cost? Because when we try to bring these people here, we don't get anything. Because if they succeed, they don't stay here. They got the tax tiffs, they got everything else, and then lo and behold, you know, General Dynamics comes down and buys them and takes them out of Fall River. And they're expecting to compete with Woods Hole and Newport and Groton.
Yeah, it's propaganda.
I mean, come on. This is right out of Pravda. This is propaganda at its best.
Yeah,
Okay? And do I fault these companies for presenting an alternative way of doing business? Do I fault them for thinking outside of the box and coming up with some new ideas? No. But guess what? You're not Woods Hole. You are not URI. You are not Groton, Connecticut, and you're definitely not Newport. Newport has the Naval Warfare Center. This is all they do. That's the industry. You have Raytheon right there. You have other industries right there working hand in hand with the Newport Naval Base and the Naval Warfare Center and NUSC, the Underwater Systems Command. Come on. Yeah, you're in Fall River. What do you got? A pond? Come on.
Well, you know, I can see, look, again, it's propaganda. They're trying to amplify something that's positive because we have so little.
I know.
But the reality is, let's put it in perspective. See, that's the problem. Every time we come up with something that's a, you know, we get a single and we try to make it a grand slam home run, to use a baseball analogy. The fact is, okay, we've got something, but as you said, we're never going to be a hub. You know, and these major companies are going to divert, you know, they're probably very rudimentary things they're working on because all the sophisticated testing labs are in places that have been there for a long time. Okay, we've got something. But this is the problem. You know, they continue to make these, you know, they make these ridiculous assertions that, you know, everything's going to turn around. But what is our state delegation doing? They go to Portugal now a whole bunch of times, but I'll tell you what they've done. They're going to raise the gas tax on you. Why? Because you work. That's what our people, that's what our representatives and senators are going to do for you, and senator is going to do for you. They're going to vote for another tax increase because, you know something? They got together on Beacon Hill, had a huddle, and said, you know something? Those idiots are paying way too little for gas. They got used to paying over $3 a gallon. Let's get some money out of their pockets now. You know, they're getting way too much extra money now. They're paying a lot less for gas. Let's tax. And so what are we going to do with the taxes? Oh, we're going to give it to the junkies and the welfare. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure to get NARCAN. And what was our governor's occupation before he became the governor? He was involved in the healthcare industry. And who's making all kinds of money with rehab clinics and medical care? And what's the price of Narcan? CJ used to give courses in pharmacology. What's the price of Narcan? How much has it increased with the demand?
Narcan prices increased to $123 a dose at retail. It's also expected to increase again after the first of the year. Narcan used to be available for less than $14 a dose, and at one time it was available at $3 a dose. The increase has been over 400,000% in some cases, or excuse me, 4,000% in some cases over the past 3 years. 4,000%.
Great. Let's have a big hand for our pharmaceutical industry. who loves to rape and pillage the people.
Oh, they're escorting me out of the building for clapping.
And also, let's give a big hand to our state and congressional delegation for allowing these people to do this, for allowing us, as we've said numerous times, to charge Americans more for the drugs made in America than anybody in the world pays for the drugs, because they're all bought and paid for. So what are they going to do now? You know, we're going to get Narcan, and now we've created a new growth industry. And, you know, the hell with the old, you know, I thought supply and demand was a front, you know, there's a high demand, so the government and pharmaceutical companies get to go against basic economics. Demand is great, but we got a great supply. We got tons of junkies around here. There's plenty of people.
But, you know, Chip,
So
let's be
so
fair.
so they're selling a ton of it. They should actually lower the price,
But let's be fair.
not increase it 4,000%.
Let's be fair. Maura Healey did announce today,
Oh,
okay, that
can't
she
wait.
has recovered $68 million from Pfizer Pharmaceuticals and their manufacturing company, Wyeth, for the drug Protonix, a non-narcotic related drug, because they failed to give the state back their money for their overcharging.
well, and that comes directly on the heels of a national report about Johnson & Johnson. It was I think it was some drug that created that they said it was dealt with attention deficit disorder,
Yep.
but it ended up growing breasts in males.
Oh, that's risperidol.
And they were they were using it for teenagers, and they actually suppressed the report which said that's not the usage for it, and that it did it. And they found that one of the high, I don't know who it was, the president or somebody, suppressed the report and continued to push that drug when the company knew that it happened, and there
And
was a national
risperidol-
report. So again, here we go. Our politicians are wandering around the corridors on Beacon Hill and up in Washington, and you know what they're doing is they've got their hand out. When's my next golf trip, Pfizer? When's my next contribution?
It's interesting because
coming?
risperidol is actually an antipsychotic, so it really isn't normally used for teenagers or young pediatric patients, but
they said it was going. They said
I know,
it. Yeah,
I know. But again, the Pfizer. Here's this is the key on this Pfizer thing with Massachusetts. $68 million because Pfizer failed to give the state back its money because they are only supposed to charge. Let me get this quote correctly because I don't want Maura Healey calling saying we misquoted them. To reduce the costs incurred by the state. The prescription program requires a participating pharmaceutical to pay quarterly rebates to the state for each of its drugs sold for the lowest best price available. Lowest best retail price available. So even the state knows already that you're overcharging. So we want you to only charge us the lowest best price. So Medicaid pays out whatever the pharmacies are charging. Places like CVS care less, and then they get money back from the pharmaceutical companies because, well, that's too much money, and we know that, so we're going to give you the least amount. So again, why not just charge the lowest available price, period, to everybody? And then no rebates are necessary, and people actually can afford their drugs. Oh, wait, that makes too much sense.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Why don't we really have why don't we do something really great? The lowest best price in the United States. That's what they're talking about.
Right.
Why don't we write a law that says we get the lowest price that they sell the drug anywhere on the planet? Because, we want to build a wall to keep the Mexicans and the Central Americans out of the United States, but we should be all going over to the border to buy our drugs in Mexico because they get it for about 30 to 75% and sometimes more than that, less than we do. I remember a documentary a while back where a woman's paying 200 and something for an inhaler, and they went down to Cuba, and it was like 27 cents down there for that
Right.
inhaler. So, I mean, this again.
Hey, I just thought
Fall
about
River's
it.
a little microcosm of the world, but I mean, our problems are just they're so great, and it all lies in the fact that the best interest of the people is not being represented by the people who are elected to represent the people.
And I've just finally figured out the Portugal trip for the mayor.
Okay.
He went over there to the pharmacies to buy all the drugs, and he's bringing them back for the employees of the city to get them at a very low cost.
He will be arrested for that, by the way. But because you can't do anything like that. You can't go to a foreign country, buy American drugs,
And bring 'em
for
back.
1/4 the price and bring them back because heaven forbid we hurt the pharmaceutical industries and their money. I mean, they paid $68 million back, but how much did he make on that drug?
Of course.
I mean, what do they make? What do they make? $2 billion on that drug?
But this is the problem, and people don't want to see it. And you get things like this article from Pravda, which says, and I have to quote this again, and this is in the area right in the middle of the triangle formed by Woods Hole, MIT, and the Newport Navy base, with its school for underwater warfare. So that's their quote. That's their quote. Come on. Are you serious? Are you serious? This is, it's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle. So now we're in the, underwater triangle. I know that we're in the drug triangle. Walk down the street and you see it. Go to the various parking lots. Walk down the street. Look in the gutter. You'll see the drugs. Stop at McDonald's. You'll find 2 junkies already OD'd, one in each bathroom. I mean, this is how bad it's getting. And there's nothing we can do because we no longer prosecute them for possession. Okay? Everyone needs help. We've created a drug court to slap their wrist each time and get them into the detox. They spend 4 days in detox and they get sent out. Oh, wait, I clapped again. They're going to escort me out again.
No, Spindle City allows clapping.
Yeah,
This
we
is
do.
like the House of Commons
That's
here,
right.
because we're the common people.
But
so.
this has just gotten to the point where we're throwing good money after bad, which we've done for years. We have a mayor who does not have a grasp of reality because he's going to create the path, the walking path to the waterfront so that the people can see our beautiful waterfront. What's so beautiful about it? You look across the river, you see a power plant, which is going to be dilapidated shortly. There's nothing down there to do because the city doesn't want food trucks or food vendors down there because Heritage Park has a restriction. The only people that can do that is the Friends of Heritage State Park. So you can't do anything. You've put all these restrictions in place to destroy the waterfront, yet you say we're going to build it up. Guess what? Get your head out of your ass.
Well, Kubla Khan, too, can create Xanadu, but it's not going to help. People are not coming to Fall River. Our population has decreased over the years, and it would be much lower if we weren't importing and trucking people in to our subsidized housing all the way from Pennsylvania.
And our drug rehab
we're trucking them in every day, and this is one of the problems that we have. And, our mayor, our city council, and our city council now, I can't wait. This is the great thing about all this, you get hyper excited, It's like, because what's the city council going to do now? Are they gonna reconsider the reorganization? Are they gonna what are we gonna do? It's like, you're like a kid in a candy store. I just can't wait to see what they're going to do.
Well, actually, I spoke with a city councilor and we only got a couple seconds left, who turned around and said that, oh, no, we can't file a motion to reconsider because we can only do that in the same meeting. And we can't do a motion to rescind because we can only do that in the same meeting. I'm like, you deal with Cushing's, not with Roberts. Under Roberts, you can only do it in the same meeting.
No, you can do it at the subsequent meeting.
That's right, at the subsequent meeting.
The next meeting, you can do it. That's wrong, because even Roberts and Atwoods both allow motions to reconsider in the meeting or the next meeting. After that, it's prohibited. So again, they're lying to you. So stay angry and let's keep on them.
Hey, it's amazing how much lying goes on. Hey, thanks for watching. Definitely keep us informed because we're here for you. Have a great day.